What's up guys, my name is Johan Lund and today I'm gonna show you how I turned this into this. Using various Colin Richardson related products such as Toontrack Made of Metal, STL Tones ToneHub Colin Richardson, and STL Tones ControlHub Colin Richardson doing the heavy lifting in the mixing stage. But first, let's check out my playthrough, which is the same song that I used in my ToneHub Colin Richardson Every Preset demo, which you can find a link to in the end of the video. Colin Richardson is one of my favorite producers of all time, and in case you've been living under a rock and you don't know who he is, he's been working with bands such as I Lay Dying, Carcass, Machine Head, and the list goes on and on. I've always dreamt of sitting in on a mix of his, seeing the gear he's using and how he approaches the mix, and with the STL Tones ControlHub, it's all possible. So let's jump into the DAW and start mixing. But before we start mixing, let's check out what we got going here. I have a basic rock metal setup here with some drums, a couple of tracks with bass, some rhythm guitars and some melodies, and a lead. If we check out the mixer here, you can see a bunch of ControlHub instances disengaged here, and that's mainly for time saving, so I don't have to wait for all these plugins to load up, and it saves a huge amount of time during the editing part of making these demos, which is really fun to do, editing videos, right? So all the time that I can save is a huge bonus. So just so you know about that. Before we start mixing the individual tracks, let's check out the master buses that I've got going here. They are identical, only that one is for the recording of this demo and one is for my listening. Plugin that's activated on this one right now is this Mix Tool plugin that's included in Studio One, which reduces the gain about -8 dB for some gain staging. And we'll get back to the master bus in the last stage so you can see how I got this set up. And there's a couple of ways you can have the master bus set up during mixing. Either you can mix into a master chain with a compressor, limiter, and clipper and whatnot. Or you can have it clean like I have it in this mix, and then set all the levels and mixing individual tracks and buses, and then activate all the plugins afterwards to set a fake master or a proper master. Both of them is really cool. I use them both, but for this mix I'm gonna stick with this. So let's just start off by how I normally do and start with the kick and then move forward with the rest of the drums and then add the other instruments into the mix. So just a quick rundown of the ControlHub before we start mixing. On the left side here you can see all the packs that are in your possession. You can just choose them and you'll find what presets that are available in each respective pack. And up here you have the signal chain that each preset contains. So for instance, what color or saturation that it has in this preset, the compression, master EQ, what effects if there is some, and if there are any notes to the preset. And down here you can tweak all these settings thereafter. So you can have a pre-EQ, color, which you have a preamp set and a drive color knobs here, master compression, master EQ, and some effects, really nice delays and reverbs, and a limiter. And down here you have a balance knob, which allows you to affect either side of the speaker more or less. And to the right you have a mix knob. Up here you have an input and an output slider. And for the master EQ, you can either use these knobs or just click away to the line itself. And you can see the knobs down here corresponding to this one reacts the same way you do when you just drag this around like this. So either a graphic EQ or a standard knob EQ like that. If we check out Easy Drummer here, I have the Made of Metal Easy Expansion Pack loaded up, which is Colin Richardson's collaboration with Toontrack. And I have the original mix preset chosen, which should be no processing done other than kick-ass recorded drums, which sounds really, really natural and really great. And I set up Easy Drummer for a multi-out recording. So I got all the individual drums down to individual tracks here, so I can process them individually. And the only thing I've done extra with these is to add a couple of triggers. So you got kick trig, snare trig 1 and 2, and a snare room trig to make the drums a bit more punchy and cut through the mix a bit more. And with the kick we have kick in, kick trig, and kick out, which I've bussed to a kick group here. And as you can see, you can quickly mention I have a drum para send here, which goes to this FX track, which is a parallel drum processing bus. And also to the right of it, I have a drum reverb, and which you can find here for the toms, for instance. But they are not activated now, so I'll go through those later on. And also for the kick, I have a send here, that goes to a track spacer plugin for the bass, which ducks the bass when the kick hits. But as I said, I'll go through that in the later part of the mix. Let's start off with the kick in and open up ControlHub. And for the kick in, I'll show you the process that I use to find the preset that I think fits the track the best, to go through all the different presets. But for the other tracks, I've pre-chosen a preset that I think fits nice for the track, so I'll save a bit of time. But the process is exactly the same for each track, and it's really fun and fast way to go through and hear the different presets. So start off by opening up the artist pack and the Colin Richardson drum pack here, which the first one is conveniently a kick in. So I think I'm gonna go with that in the end, but let's go through just for good fun and hear the different kick presets. So let's solo the kick and I'll go through them and let's see how they sound. So here we go. I found a bunch of them that sounded actually pretty good, but since I have both a kick in, kick trig, and a kick out mic or track, I think I'm gonna start with the kick in, which had a nice round off low end to it, some nice compression and some coloration from the console. So for this one, for instance, just to show you, have a compression with Pro MB and SSL comp, and an SSL EQ and an REQ from Waves, I believe, all baked into one plugin, which is really, really cool. And so I'm gonna stick with that one and continue with the kick trig. So let's solo it and hear how the kick hunter preset that I think fit the best for the kick trig sounds. So let's check it out with and without. That sounded okay without the processing, but I think with the processing, clear it up a bit more of the mid-range, give it a bit more clack in the 3K area here, which I really liked. So I'm gonna keep that and move over to the kick out, and let's hear it with and without the control hub. And for this instrument, we have actually a kick out preset, so I'm gonna keep that and hear how that sounds with and without. Yeah, sounds nice. Some cool compression to it, a lot of top end added for some punchiness, and a lot of coloration as well to get a bit of more grit to the kick out mic. So I think it sounds really great. Let's hear them all together and turn on and off the processing so you can hear how it sounds with that and without. Yeah, a lot more aggressiveness going through the kick here with the processing on. So let's check out the bus here and open up ControlHub. So for the kick bus, it didn't have a kick bus preset per se, but I think the kick trigger EQ really did the job that I was after. So let's hear it with and without. Yeah, that's really a kick that I'm after when I'm mixing. A really nice mid scoop to it, tight low end and some clickiness at the top, which really cuts through the mix. That sounds really great the way that it is. I'm not gonna touch that one yet. Let's move over to the snare. So for the snare, I have a snare top, snare trig 2, and a snare bottom. And also all of them are bused to a snare group here. Let's start off with the snare top. Open up ControlHub, and it has a snare top preset, really convenient again. Let's hear it with and without. Yeah, some light compression, some coloration here, and a bit of tweaking in the EQ department. So really like that. Let's move over to the snare bottom, and the snare bottom preset is chosen here, so I'm gonna hear how that sounds. That really brought out the brightness of the snares. And also some nice coloration here, give it a bit more character. Let's hear it with the snare top and snare bottom together. Yeah, really made it less boxy and more punch to the snare and give it more character. So really like that. Let's check out the triggers. And for the first one, I used the snare trigger. I believe I used it on both, but let's check out if we can tweak them both. Let's start off with the first one. So as you can hear, it's more of a snappier snare trig that I've got going here. Let's hear it with and without the ControlHub. Yeah, some nice compression to it and a lot of brightness as well, together with some coloration. So really like that one. Let's hear how the snare trig 2 sounds. More of a ringier trigger, that one. Let's hear it with and without the ControlHub. Yeah, a lot of compression and some coloration as well, with some brightness added at the top. I think it will sound really great with all the other snares. And as you can see here, I've reduced that one to about -16, so it's not as loud. And I've cut it out during the blast beat parts as well, because I really want it only to be audible in the stronger parts of the snare. And let's hear them all together, with and without processing. Yeah, really nice, compressed, a lot of nice body to it, reduced the boxy mid-range and added some top at the higher frequencies, so it sounds really great. Let's check out the snare bus, and conveniently here as well, a snare bus preset is available, so let's hear how that sounds. Sounds great. Reduced even more boxy mid-range, added some top and compressed them all together, so together with both triggers here, it sounds really great. Quickly moving over to toms. So if we check out the presets for the toms, we can see that it's made presets for different sizes of drums. So here we have 10, 12, 14, 16 toms, and then specified rack 8, 10, 12, 16 and 18. And I happen to know that the sizes of the kit that I've chosen for the Easy Mix pack here, it's a 10 and 12 inch rack tom and a 14 and 18 floor tom. So that's what I'm gonna use for the presets for the toms. And for the toms, I have no bus processing because I think it didn't need it actually. Starting off with the first rack tom. Yeah, reduce this boxiness and give it some nice coloration as well. Sounds great. Moving over to the second rack tom, the 12 inch. It got louder, of course, but I think it sounds really great. Scooped out some mids and added some top end and some coloration as well. Sounds great. Let's hear the first floor tom, which is a 16 inch. Yeah, sounds really good. Let's hear the second floor tom, the 18 inch. I'm expecting doominess from this one. Yeah, sounds mighty. Added a lot of compression, which lengthened this tom a lot, and reduced some boxy mid-range here as well for this one. So I think it sounds really great. Let's hear them all together, with and without processing. Yeah, huge difference to the toms. So moving over to overheads. And for the overheads, I have a separate hi-hat track and an overhead track. The overhead track should capture the entire kit, and those two are bussed together to an overhead group. And for the ControlHub preset, I've chosen the overheads preset here, which I thought sounded the best for this one. So let's hear it with and without processing. Yeah, sounds great. brings out a bit more length to the cymbals and really glues together the overheads. The only thing I'm gonna tweak for this one is that I think it's a bit too much low end in the overheads. So I'm gonna activate the filter here, which you can do afterwards, and I'm gonna bring it up to around 400 Hertz and hear how it sounds with that. Yeah, it's gonna work much better, especially with the faster kick parts. So I'm gonna leave it to that and move over to rooms. And here we have the snare room trigger that I mentioned in the beginning, room stereo and room mono track, and also bus these together to room group. The snare room trigger, however, is processed individually, so I'm gonna start off with that one. And I've got the drum room 2 preset chosen here. Let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, really nice and explosive, which I want in a snare room track. So let's hear how the room stereo and room mono sounds without any processing. Yeah, really nice drum room. And let's add some processing to them. So for the rooms, I chose the drum room 2 preset here as well. I'm gonna solo those two together and you can hear them with and without processing, but without the snare room trigger. And I'm gonna add that one in later so you can hear what that does to the overall drum room sound. Yeah, really nice, explosive and crushed drum room sound, which I really like. Let's add in the snare room trig as well, so you can hear how it sounds with that one. Yeah, really cool. And when I added the snare room trig, it really made the snare explode even more in the rooms, which I'm after in this mix. As you can see, I don't have the snare room trigger to the room group. I have it straight to the drums group that I've got all the other drums routed to over here. So that's it with the individual tracks and buses. So let's hear what happens if we engage the drum para bus and the drum reverb. But before we engage the parallel bus, let's hear what we got going for drums so far. I'm gonna solo it and then disengage and engage the control hubs that we've added here and hear what we got going. Yeah, sounds really great. So let's add some parallel processing to the drums and see what we can get out of it. So for the drum parallel processing, I've got the parallel 33609 preset chosen here. And before, I should mention that I've got pretty much all drums sent to that parallel bus, but with different amounts sent to it. I have the snare sent to it the most because I want the snare to be the one that the parallel bus is reacted to. So I have that sent to 0 dB. And the other ones just below. So the kick, for instance, -7, the toms, for instance, -4, and a bit less on the overheads and rooms. That way I get a nice cohesive parallel processing sound for the entire kit, but with the snare that should be reacted the most. So let's solo it and check it out. Yeah, nice. Brought the entire kit together, a bit more punch as well, which is the way that I want the parallel bus to do to the drums. But normally I wouldn't have it all the way up to -1 as I had it now, because it could be a bit too audible. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it all the way down and then ease it in until I hear it and then back it off a bit more. So just get a feeling of more punch and some more length to the drums. Yeah, right around there, -10 was the sweet spot for me. Could be that I have to adjust that when I have got all the other instruments going, but I'll keep it to -10 for now. And check out the reverb. And for that, I've got the toms and the snare sent to the reverb. And for the reverb, I've chosen the reverb drum chamber here. And so let's solo the drums and add in the reverb so you can hear how that sounds. Yeah, some slight reverb to it. Don't want it to be too audible or too overbearing, rather. Since I've got a nice drum room that's taking care of some ambience. But I really like to have some reverb there as well to give it a bit more specified room sound to the toms and snare. So I think it sounds really great. So that's it for drums. Moving over to bass. Alright, so for the bass I have 2 tracks. They are identical and just a copy of each other. And I'm going to use one track for sub and one for grit. And if you hear how it sounds just without any processing, sounds like this. Which is just a nice clean bass programmed with Submission Audio Euro Bass 2. Really kick-ass virtual bass instrument. So both of them sounds the same. You can hear it on the other one like this. So it sounds the same. So for the sub, what I've done here is that I've, with FabFilter Pro Q3, just cut out some of the subbiest subs and all of the top end from 320 and upwards, because I don't need that in the sub. And after that, I have the Johan BG bass from JST set up like this. And both of them activated sounds like this. As you could see on the meter here, you've got a really nice pinned controlled low end on the bass, which we really want. So moving over to the grit, I've done a similar thing with the FabFilter Pro Q3, but I've reduced all the sub from it from 259 and downwards. So with and without the filter, sounds like this. And that's because we don't want to have a distorted bass sound, because that could be a lot of mud coming through, and we don't want that. So we want a clean low end and a gritty top end. And for the grit, I've chosen a preset from the STL ToneHub Colin Richardson guitar pack. Even though he doesn't have a bass preset in this pack, chosen a guitar preset that I think sounded really awesome, and then tweaked it a bit on the amp pit down here. Reduce some gain, reduce the bass because we don't need the bass to be distorted, as I said, and took away the presence. So it sounds like this with and without this engaged. It's really nice and grindy bass there. Reduce that a bit and then add in the sub as well to it and hear how they sound together. Yeah, nice note from the subby part and then the grind from the grind. Together sounds awesome. But let's make it more awesome by adding the ControlHub to it as well. And for the bass, I've chosen the bass bus. So let's hear how it sounds with and without. It sounds good. I think though that it lacked a bit bass when I engaged it, so I'm gonna add in some more bass frequencies after the fact. I'm gonna keep it above the kick though. The kick lives in like the 60 hertz region, so I don't want to mess with that one too much because I don't want them to clash with each other basically. So I'm gonna add it a bit above, like 100 hertz. So let's hear how it sounds with that engaged. Yeah, sounds a lot better. Let's hear it together with the drums. So we start adding elements together so we don't just mix in solo. So let's hear them, how they sound together. Yeah, really nice. And what I've done here lastly is that I've added a track spacer plugin. Which I've sent the kick to as a sidechain, and that ducks the bass when the kick hits, so the kick is more prominent around the bassy frequencies, so the bass doesn't cover the kick basically. Just set it to the standard settings here that comes with it when you open this up. I think it sounds the best. So let's move over to guitars. And for the guitars, I've got two rhythm guitar tracks here, left and right. Another riffy part here and some more held out chords and a lead part here. And all the tones are from the STL ToneHub Colin Richardson pack. And for the left and right rhythm guitars, I've got two different presets loaded up here. The left one is the 6505 with a Marshall V30 speaker, and the right one is the 5150 Mark III, also with the Marshall V30 speaker. And to give it a bit more width and different characters, if you have different amps and different cabs or different cabs chosen for left and right speaker. So it sounds like this. Yeah, sounds really good. And after them, I have the Johan BG guitars from JST with the chug slayer engaged here, because some palm mutes were a bit out of control, and this plugin is awesome just to load up, chug the chug slayer on, and then reduce a bit of gain here with this slider, and it takes care of the palm mutes. So it sounds really good and an easy fix for that specific case. So let's hear it with and without. And so other than the volume increase there, I think it really controlled the low end on the chugs in a really pleasant way. So to just go over the other guitar parts, the more riffy part that comes in after the intro sounds like this, and with the preset chosen is the PV6505 with the Mesa 4x12 standard instead of the Marshall for the rhythm guitars, to make it also a bit more separated. And all together. Yeah, sounds kick-ass. And for the more held out chordy part over here, I've got the same preset actually on both left and right guitar. And that's the preset number 3 here, the 5150 Marshall V30. And same actually, that's on the left, on the right guitar, sorry. here. I think it sounded great altogether. So let's hear them all. Here we go. Yeah, so the chordy parts are a bit hidden underneath, but I think they do the parts justice when they're played. Yeah, I think it sounds great as they are, but let's see what we can do with it with the ControlHub. So for the rhythm guitars, I chose the Rhythm Bus Byte. So let's hear it with and without. Yeah, nice scooped sound there with some nice saturation and added top end bite to it. With the scoop sound, I think it's gonna give a lot more room for the bass. So let's hear it with the bass included, so you can hear how it sounds both together. Yeah, so you can hear the bass really comes forward more when you add the ControlHub to the rhythm guitars. And so it clears out the mid-range and gives the bass more room, basically. So let's check out lastly the solo part. And for the lead guitar, tone-wise, I have the STL ToneHub yet again with the Mesa Boogie JP2C amp and a Marshall 4x12 V30 cab. And just added some effects to it as well, the delay and reverb, because that was not included in the preset to begin with. I think it made it sound like a really nice lead tone. I've got a harmony as well underneath, which is the same preset, so let's add both of them and then see how they sound. Yeah, epic lead tone we got going there. Let's see what we can do with it if we add the ControlHub. And the preset for that one, I've chosen the solo preset here, which reduces some muddy low end and add some top end EQ to it. It has a delay in the FX section here, but I've disengaged that since we have the reverb and delay in the actual tone. So let's hear it with and without. Yeah, a lot more brighter and bitier. Cuts out some muddy low end, as I said, so that would be a nice way to make it stand out more in the mix and not interfere with other instruments. So let's hear it together with the other instruments and here it fits in the mix. Yeah, it sounds really great in the mix, and I think the mix itself sounds really awesome as it is right now. Of course, we need some volume adjustments, I can hear that, to make the mix done, basically. But let's move over to the master section and just hear what the different presets that we have chosen here for the ControlHub and also this plug-in flatline can do to the entire mix. So I'm gonna start off by opening both of them. The ControlHub, I've got the Mix Bus 3 presets chosen here with some tape saturation, compression, and some master EQ. But it doesn't have a limiter in the chain. So instead of just adding the limiter here, I've gone and chosen the flatline master grade clipper as my limiter for this mix. I love this clipper and it really brings out volume, really does that little extra to the mix that I really think sounds awesome. So let's start off with just adding the control hub and then adding the flat line afterwards and see what that does to the entire mix. Let's start off a bit earlier in the song here. Yeah, the control hub really glued the mix together. There's still some level changes that needs to be done to make this mix finished and perfect, in my opinion anyway. But it really gave it more life and more warmth with the coloration from the tape saturation there. Compression made the mix glued together, and the master EQ just lifted it a bit more, made it a bit more crispier. And the flat line afterwards really made it a little extra. Crunched it a bit, made it a bit louder. So I think those two together was the perfect match. But I'm gonna go back and do some level changes. And if you go back to the demo playthrough, then you'll find the finished mix there. So head back over there, listen to it again, and enjoy. Thank you so much for watching my demo. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer. And if you want to support me, please subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever I release a new video, and put a thumbs up to this one, it really matters to me. And until the next one, see you later.